You sound great. You sound healthy.
I feel great. I could go out and I can't work out yet just because what most people don't know, and which I'm willing to open up to now, is I had a total of 4 different surgeries, and the fourth being 3 weeks ago today. But I didn't tell anybody about them except my wife and family. Not even tell Ashley because I didn't want her to worry about it. But they were procedures. They went in the first time and looked for blockage. I had none. Second time, they put me to sleep and they tried to shock my heart back where what was happening was going into AFib. If you understand anything about medicine, where it was into an irregular heartbeat. That lasted 2 days. And then the third time I had what's called an ablation, where they go in, it's like soldering some stuff in your heart that holds it together. And I was great for 3 days that time, but it didn't work. So the last technique, I went in, and it happened in the middle of the night on Wednesday night 3 weeks ago, as I couldn't breathe, and it had been bothering me for a couple of days. But this was to the point where I couldn't walk like 10 steps. I felt great if I was sitting down, but I couldn't breathe. So the only way to get myself in the hospital and follow protocol, because of the number of people ahead of me, was to go through the emergency room. And even though I was there just straight through, like maybe 30 seconds from door to door, somebody took a picture of me, and that's why it went upside down. But then I got there, and I'm actually glad I went. They found a blood clot that had been in my leg that broke off that went to my lung. So we got that taken care of. That's why the surgery was put off for 3 days. Massive amounts of intravenously of blood thinner, and that was cured up. And then I had fluid on my heart as a result of anesthesia from the 3 other surgeries.
Dude.
I'm giving this to you as I'm learning, okay? So I had what's called was congestive heart failure. So I was taking massive Lasix and actually lost 9 pounds over the weekend. Just fluid. Because I've taken Lasix before, but I always drank, 20 drinks. So it balanced out. So, and I actually came home and didn't do anything. And I went to one signing for Seth Rollins and his friend, which I really enjoyed. But I'm not going back to work until Friday. And this time I'm letting it heal up. Like, after I shocked my heart, I got on a plane and flew to London for a signing with all the guys. Because I look forward so much now to seeing all the guys. It was actually in Liverpool, and Brett was there, and Kevin Nash, and Bischoff, and Scott Hall, and Waltman, and Jericho. It was, and I'm sure Bubba feels the same way. And Bubba, you're probably just, 38 now? That doesn't matter. You're a kid. You're a young guy.
Yes, sir.
And 30 years from now, you'll really appreciate these moments if you're still here. and with me not in your life, that's probably more probable.
That's a good point.
So, anyway, I'm just saying, I feel great. It's unbelievable. Boy, it gave me a whole new understanding of these kids. Not kids, these elderly people that have emphysema. They can't breathe. Holy crap, it's brutal. I mean, you can't take 10 steps. But I'm great. Thus far, I'm knocking on every piece of wood in the house thus far, everything is great. But I'm actually doing what the doctor said. So, and it's working, and hopefully it will continue to be like this, and I'll have another 20 years to have fun with you guys. I'll take 10, but I want 20.
Nate, it's great to hear you in such good spirits. Yep. Like Dave said,
thank you.
You sound awesome. I gotta ask you though. About 2 weeks ago,
ask anything.
I definitely will. With all due respect, 2 weeks ago, you went on that crazy rant right before you went to go do the signing for Seth Rollins, and you said something to the effect that if I want to have a beer, I'll have two, and I'm leading the life that I want to lead, and if I want to be Ric Flair, I'm going to be Ric Flair. Can you give us a little bit more insight into basically what you said?
Okay, and that's a great question because I was hoping you'd ask that. Here's the deal. I came so close to dying in 2017. I don't think people understand. Like 20% chance to live, septic, pneumonia, congestive heart failure, and everybody blamed it on alcohol. Well, what happened was I'd had surgery 3 years prior to that, actually 3 surgeries, one an emergency appendectomy, and I've learned this through asking 50 different doctors, trust me. Emergency appendectomy where I sat up in bed because I didn't want to stay in the hospital, got a hernia, another surgery for that, and through that I got the intestinal blockage. So 3 surgeries in 11 days. So it's like 1 in a million. I've heard this from 3 different doctors that type of problem can come back. So apparently I did something that day or in the prior couple days to August 14th of 17 where I did something to cause that because I went septic. I got a leak in my intestine. And yes, my system was probably worn down from all the drinking, but what caused it was a 1 in a million, a 1 in a million thing, a 1 in a million situation where the intestine can start leaking again. That's what makes you septic, and septic is what can kill you. Oh, I had kidney failure too. It's just major. So it took them, 2 days to get me ready for surgery, and then they had to put me in a coma, and then. So anyway, getting to your question, I decided this time when I woke up that I got nothing to lose. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I am going to not drink 2 beers and have an anxiety attack anymore. You know what I mean? That's where I was. The first time I drank a beer or anything was at my wedding, and the 2 or 3 beers and a glass of champagne that I had, I went upstairs and the anxiety was so bad that it wasn't worth drinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I found out that the drinking isn't what did it. The drinking, yes, it worn down my immune system, but it's a result of the going septic. And so after 4 surgeries where they put you to sleep, and that's the unknown, right? I mean, you just never know if you're going to wake up. And that's a given, especially when you've had that many surgeries, and especially as you get older, anesthesia, it can be complicated. There could be complications. I just said to myself, hell, I'm going to say what I think and what I feel. And I actually had to sit back down and rest for 2 days after I made that. But I was just making a point because I was losing business opportunities left and right because people were thinking, maybe he's not ever going to come around. And I had to do something that showed some energy because I felt that good. and I feel even better now. And I just wanted to be energized and show people that I still had it and could be entertaining and have fun. And that's basically that's what that came from. Not losing opportunities that I have coming up in the future, especially for brand endorsement, where I've got to be at myself for those 3-day filming shoots, like I did for a company recently out of New England. So anyway, that's what brought that on.
And I'm sure, like, where you're coming from is that there's, I guess, certain expectations when it's Ric Flair. They're expecting Ric Flair, and I'm sure that's what you want to give your fans and the public.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I've had to slow everything down. I get that, but Bubba will tell you this, because, you know, we not only have been friends for years, but he's an old school guy. I have put my body through a lot more than most guys in our business, even though I was never a hardcore guy. I mean, backdrops, upside down, whatever. I even did a couple of those ladder matches when I was in my mid-50s with Edge or with Matt Hardy or somebody giving me the bumps because I wasn't qualified to give them any. You know what I mean? So, and it worked out. I wasn't afraid to do it, but I was afraid I'd hurt somebody because I didn't know how to do anything off a ladder. And at whatever age you reach in this business, the day you're afraid of getting hurt is the day you need to walk away. And I think Bubba will attest to that. Bubba obviously hasn't reached that point, and he's still young, and he's still active. He can go through a table tomorrow. He's lucky, you know. Look at Mick Foley. Mick, not so lucky. Not that he's not living a good quality of life, but he's lucky, and he's probably in pain, in a considerable amount of pain daily that he won't admit to, because I know he's not a drug guy. He's not going to load up on drugs and that, because he lives too clean. But I look at Hulk, who was in pain 24/7. The guys with, continued back surgeries, ongoing hip injuries, hip replacement, knee replacements. I mean, I have none of that. And I've crashed in an airplane, cracked C5 in my neck, had 2 rotator cuffs, had a lump on my back that they thought was cancer as a result of the airplane crash, hit by lightning, and in these 2 deals, or these 5 operations, well, not 5, 8 counting at 3 and 15, and I'm still here. So it's like I posted this morning. I'm not making a joke because I'm having so much fun with this YouTube stuff, social media. I'm glad we're talking because I'm having so much fun with it. I said, God's garden of pearly gates, and the devil's afraid of me. So
they're keeping you on earth, Rick, as long as possible.
I hope so. Hey, this social media stuff, I'm just starting to get the hang of it. I had to call Edge yesterday and say, "Tell me Becky Lynch isn't really shooting on you." My God, it was pissing me off. He goes, "Low, Rick, it's a word." Well, you faked out the niche.
Well, you just exposed that one, Rick.
No, you know what I'm saying? I don't expose it. The important thing is they had me, okay?
They had the hook in your mouth.
Yeah, that's the important thing. And here's the funny thing. Like Kevin Nash says it best, and I love this explanation for me. I'm the last traveling world champion. And it's the truth. If you look at where I've been, the traveling world champion was really a shoot. It was. And I wasn't tough enough to be that guy. I was half tough Never had, but when you're the traveling world champion and you're going to Japan and you're going overseas and wrestling against people that you've never heard of, I mean, I feel horrible. David Ortiz shot last night in the Dominican Republic, right?
Yep.
Can I tell you, after being there and almost getting killed twice, wrestling Jack Veneno in the 80s and taking Piper back the second time where they almost killed us both again, the Dominican Republic is a tough place. And now, people just think that you can go into these islands and everything is like Hollywood. It's not the case. These are tough. And they, for whatever reason, and I know David well. As a matter of fact, he always says to me, "Oh, I love you. I grew up watching you." I mean, as do so many of the great Dominican baseball players. But that I see, in and out of different events. And it was tough back then. I mean, I was in St. Croix one night when the cops were breaking up a match with me and Carlos Colon, and somebody shot the horse the cop was on. I'm over in Japan, and I'm literally getting stretched every night, because those guys, to be the NWA champion, they weren't messing around with Jack Briscoe. They weren't messing around with Terry Funk. They most certainly weren't messing around with Harley. With me, they didn't feel, they weren't intimidated. Let me put it like that. And I had to do that all the time. And I'm wrestling Brody for an hour in Japan. And a week later, I'm wrestling Brody for an hour in St. Louis. Sold out, Checkerdome. And 2 weeks later, I'm wrestling, because the ring didn't show up, in Iowa against Bob Brown for an hour on a high school wrestling mat with ropes around it for an hour.
See, this is, Bully, this is kind of like when you have a discussion about a football player. With Ric Flair, it's kind of like you're talking about Tom Brady, because Tom Brady's never played a 16-game season because he's always in the playoffs and he's most likely always in the Super Bowl. It's the same thing with Ric Flair. He wasn't having 10, 15-minute matches. Every time he stepped into a ring, he was having a 60-minute match. So that has to factor in when you look back at the career of Ric Flair.
Well,
Absolutely.
Not only that, but a couple of times, counting one on Sunday or on Wednesday and two on Saturday and Sunday, I can think of 3 occasions. That would be 9 hours in 1 week with Ricky Morton and Steamboat. Don't misunderstand me. A walk in the park in terms of the talent I was with. But there's a lot of times, a lot of guys, an hour was a long night, especially in front of 150 people. So, and then getting back to what I was saying is that I've had to be so guarded because of what, you can't say what you say, God forbid, about, I can't brag about Ashley. I couldn't because, it's his daughter. Well, no, I'm sorry. I can say it because I know it. She's the best.
We brag about her enough on this show, Rick. Trust me. We put her over to the moon because she has earned the right to be put over to the moon, and it has nothing to do with you.
Exactly. Here's the deal. And I'm so happy to say that because it's just, I'm at the point now where I'm not going to be guarded or I'm not going to go, qualify every statement, which I'm sure we find ourselves doing and saying, well, I like the guy personally, but, I'm done doing that. We're all adults. Okay. And I'm so glad you're here to say that because she is the best. And I'm saying that just like Orton, when he wants to be, and I tell him right to his face, is the best if you factor in size, athletic ability, and their career. Right now to date, Seth Rollins is great, but he's not Randy Orton. Can he do more gymnastic stuff? Yes. If Orton had to do that, he could do it. Okay? And Seth is deceptively strong. which makes him unbelievable. That roll through stuff he was doing with John Cena, it amazed me. And I text him, and the greatest compliment I can get, it's 8 words. I'll go, "Oh, thank you so much, Nate. That means a lot coming from you." Right?
Yep.
So that it's for me to be at a point in my life where I should be able to say what I say. I mean, I did Steve's podcast about 4 months ago, and I called him about 5 times. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. And what I had said is, Ashley's not afraid of Ronda Rousey. Well, then I'm thinking, well, should I say that or not? You know what I mean? And I know the answer, she's not. But is it okay as her dad to say that? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. You're not saying it as her dad. You're saying it as Ric Flair, one of the greatest performers of all time.
Here's the deal. It's interpreted that way, and Bubba knows because he's lived in that dressing room. It's like the other night, I text all the girls. Alexa Bliss is phenomenally entertaining. I find her to be so gifted. Carmella, actually, the match they had was entertaining. Alexa got to talk. I mean, it just had all 3 things. And going back to the women at 35, they deserved to be in the main event. And they had, and I hate this word, but they had arguably the best match at 12:30 at night. And here's the reason. Because they had the best storyline, but they ramped it up so high, they were beating each other up with these kendo sticks and chairs to the point where it was, they were working. They looked like Brock beating up Seth with each other. That makes sense?
Yeah.
They took it to that level, and I said, God,
Nate,
as a father, you don't want to see your daughter get the shit beat out of her, but that's what they were doing.
Nate, there's no
behind them.
There's no doubt that Ashley is doing some of the best work in the WWE, as good as the men are doing, and she deserves all the props in the world, whether it's from me, whether it's from you, or anybody. She's earned them on her own. But I want to ask you about a different subject real quick. You just mentioned earlier on that you were 55 years old and you were wrestling in ladder matches or whatever you were doing. You were gigged to the gills against Mick Foley and TNA. My question is, did you see the match Goldberg versus Undertaker?
I did.
Can we please get your thoughts on the match, whether or not you thought the match should happen, how the match went down, just your overall feeling, from you?
Well, my overall feeling is this. They opened up hot. I loved it. And I loved the match up until the last minute and a half. And and here's the deal. Whatever you want to say about anybody in this business, he is going to be on Mount Rushmore, if there is one, or hype, whatever we keep hearing all this. You can say no wrong about The Undertaker, okay? He is a talent of a lifetime. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we agree with
Bill
you.
Bill Goldberg had arguably the greatest run of anybody for years, and has still never had anybody spend more than a half hour with him learning the fundamentals of the business. And he pulled it off. And I'm sure, that he's brokenhearted. But I'm going to argue without anybody. I mean, it's tough, and it's not factored around age. When I was doing this stuff, they had me back in the ring on a regular basis. It is so hard to come in and work 2 or 3 times a year. It's hard. I mean, they're making a big deal about Kevin Durant coming in. Try taking 6 months off of wrestling and getting in the ring, and climbing on a Stairmaster or an elliptical is not the answer to getting in the ring and going full speed. I mean, that's my hats off to Hunter. I don't know how he does it. You know, I mean, I thought he and Randy Orton had a hell of a match.
Yep.
Old school, yes, but old school is new school. And it was a heavyweight match. Two contenders going at it. Right? And they didn't miss a beat. You know what I mean? And Randy is working full time. Hunter works twice a year. That's hard to pull off.
You know, Rick, you're mentioning Triple H and Randy Orton, and I know you mentioned Randy Orton before, and I've said this on the show. Is Randy Orton underappreciated? Because when people talk about the greats of all times, they never really mention Randy Orton.
Let me tell you, Randy Orton blew by his dad, Bobby, who I love and talk to, a couple times a year, just like Ashley blew by me. Okay? And I don't care whether given the chance or not. I could never do what she's done. And I mean, when I tell people that she could have gone to a Division I school for 4 different sports, I'm not lying. I was there. Track and field, gymnastics, not gymnastics because she only went to level 9. All-star cheerleading, but she didn't want to do it on a all-girls team. She wanted to be a flyer, and she's too tall. But scholarships reigned. And basketball, and then she ended up playing volleyball, which she didn't start playing until she was in the 9th grade. So, there you go. She was a great at the 220. She ran a 5:13 mile in the 9th grade. Give me a break. I cannot tell you how many times I had to go to school to tell a coach, leave her alone. You know, if she can't do 3 things, you know, you guys want her to, that's great. You know, then, you know what I mean? I finally moved her to public school because just because you're paying tuition in a private school doesn't mean you have any say when a coach wants to win. They want to win.
Rick, I just want to bring you back. I just want to bring you back real quick to this whole Goldberg versus Undertaker thing, and it has to deal with the respect level. A lot of fans on social media have been very vocal about Goldberg and whether or not Goldberg should have been in the ring and whether or not this match should have ever happened. How do you feel when fans are so blatantly disrespectful to a performer, despite the fact that that performer gave it his all and tried to be a warrior in that ring and push through?
Well, obviously, I don't like it, but that doesn't mean that they can't have their opinion. I think that, and I mean, I don't have an agenda here. I'm never going to stop telling you how good the Undertaker is, just like Bubba. Bubba couldn't say a bad word about the Undertaker if he wanted to. He's a man's man that has been, if example, point in case, if he had ever gone to WCW and pulled up or became difficult, I mean, it could have changed the world. He was that big of an influence, you know. It's like, you know, there's just some guys that are so damn good. And I can't let a minute or two, as a result of fatigue, define anybody. Because, you know, it's funny. If they had gone 1 minute more perfect and hit it, everybody would be going, God, it was great. Because when I thought, oh my God, they got me again. When he hit him with a spear, I said, here goes the Brock deal, right? And then he came out of it. I mean, I thought they started out great. And those same people that are critiquing this are, when he was walking along the top rope, Taker, and dropping on his arm, we're going, God dang, he can still do it, right? Oh, what does their opinion mean? What, a minute and a half? I mean, Shawn Michaels carried me for 30, guys. And I get credit for being in that. The only thing I give myself credit for at WrestleMania 24 is being in the Citrus Bowl.
I think you did a little bit more than that.
No, guys, I swear to you, Shawn said to me, will you please, just once in your life, keep your mouth shut with different verbiage and let me do this. And then I went out there and because I'm not used to doing that. I messed up a little bit, but he recovered. Nobody knew it. But I never said truer words. He carried me, and that's just the way it's going to be. And I'll take credit for being there. I think it's the greatest retirement weekend of any athlete in any sport, whether it be baseball, football. I've been to Cooperstown. I've been to Canton. I've been everywhere like that. The 3 days for me, throwing in Raw, will be something that is special, and I don't see it being duplicated. And I've got nothing but the fondest memories. I think I went to TNA. Number one, I needed the money because I was going through multiple divorces. But I think I went there to drink with Bubba. Because I didn't accomplish. Hey, Bubba, tell Dave, what was the first thing I said to you when I saw you at TV? Are you going to stay out?
Are you going to stay out tonight? Right, because I lived close. I lived close to the building, and whenever, basically, when you told me to go out, I didn't have a choice. I had to go drink red wine with Rick.
Oh, that's not true. You pulled up on me a couple times. hey, let me think about it. I got.
Yeah, but you did the same thing to me when I brought out the Jack Daniels.
Exactly, and I always will. Listen. With Taker, I lost one watch and damn near lost another.
Rick, you mentioned Shawn Michaels, and you mentioned before that, the gloves are off. After everything that you've been through, you're not going to bite your tongue anymore. You're going to be honest and truthful every time you have a microphone in your hand. You had the second video on YouTube, and you mentioned Shawn Michaels that, he was a little judgmental, and who is he to be judgmental? Why Shawn Michaels? Because I know you respect the hell out of Shawn Michaels, and is this part of the new Ric Flair that we're seeing?
No, let me tell you. First of all, I just said what I said. I meant because he hurt my feelings, not because I'm questioning who he is as a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jim Ross. I called him Jim Ross and said, "Cuss him out." But Jim was telling the truth. When you open yourself up to something like that, 30 for 30, you are you're taking the good and the bad. You know what I mean? And that's what it is. I didn't like what my own kids said about me, but because you think, and anybody that knows me knows that if I have it in my pocket, it's theirs. And I can assure you they all led great lives. Was I there? No. But here's the deal. If you think the kids, and they do, it's a tough schedule to this day, an extremely tough schedule. But you can't even compare it to not going home for 3 months to 4 months, literally. And then going to Mexico and staying down there and flying from Mexico. I mean, that story I tell over and over again where I was in Florida all week long wrestling Barry for an hour, and then the double shots with Barry and Rotundo for an hour each one, Billy Jack an hour, Dusty an hour, and then having to fly to Japan knowing that I had to get off the plane and wrestle Jumbo for an hour, Tenryu for an hour, and Jumbo 3 separate nights. I completely broke down. I drank. I wrestled Butch Reed for an hour in a cage. Here's Eddie Graham. In the old the aluminum building, sports arena in Orlando, 1 hour in a cage, 110 degrees, and you can't use the cage as a weapon. Okay, Eddie. Thank you.
Got to get kind of creative in that 60 minutes.
I mean, that was Eddie. He just came up with everything, right? And so I put a blade on every finger I had in my hand. Hey, and all of a sudden, Butch Reed's head became harder than Bobo Brazil's. Hey, I wrestled Bobo for an hour. Are you kidding me? You guys. There's a myth. there's a method for this madness, you know.
I'm sure there's been more than one wrestler that 45 minutes into the match was probably begging you to please pin me so we could end this match.
Oh God, many, but you couldn't. I mean, it just. Hey, listen, I was begging myself then. Hey, it's like the deal with the title reigns, right? So New Zealand, right, having fun with Harley Race. Who doesn't have fun when you travel with Harley? And anybody that didn't, believe me, guys, he was the real world champion. He looks at me and he goes, "We're sold out in Auckland." He goes, "Hey, Rick, Christchurch tomorrow night's going to be a little light. Let's do, I can't think of the promoter's name, Steve Ricard. Let's do Steve a favor, and we'll switch the title tonight, and I'll give it back to you tomorrow. What do you think?" And then he pulls on the Marlboro. And I go, "Oh, okay, Harley, but what if they find out?" "I'll handle Geigo. Don't worry." Okay.
Rick, man,
they're calling the next day because who was there that they came on the trip with Paul Bosch of all people called either I think Geigo was the president. They're screaming at me, and I said to them, I said, "You know what? Why don't you scream at Harley? Good luck with that. See how that works for you, okay?" I just hung up with him. He goes, his last words were like, after we switched it again, he goes, "I told you I'd handle it." I said, "What did you handle? What did you handle? They're still screaming at me."
Rick, you're awesome, man. We love when you come on. You are truly the greatest of all time. We love you, and
thank you.
Thank you so much for the time, as always.
Thank you, guys. And much respect to you, and I just feel honored that you guys. I can't respect everything as you get older, and to have your respect means a lot. So thank you so much.
Rick, as always, a pleasure talking to you, and I'm so glad that you're feeling well, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you very much for coming on, brother.
Thank you guys very much. Bye-bye.